So a few broader lessons for us about the activities of organizations and their incentives, and a word about lessons for data that might be useful to point out. There can be important differences in the goals of provider organizations and their interests in tools and innovations that are associated with their size and structure and how they're paid. Not all provider organizations are equally interested in all innovations or equally able to handle them even if they are interested. Payment can matter for this. Practices getting fee-for-service or related types of payment have an ability to offer treatments to patients and, as long as they're included on systems like a fee schedule, get paid for them. These providers may be quite open to pursuing new innovations, even high-cost innovations, as long as there's something that they can bill for and be paid for. On the other hand, it can happen that provider organizations getting fee-for-service or related payments may not be as eager to adopt new approaches that would reduce their provision of services, which might negatively affect their revenues. On the other hand, organizations with more risk, capitation, DRGs, may have a different set of incentives. These kinds of systems give them more autonomy over what they do. They don't have to bill specific things to get paid for them, so they can benefit from pursuing even things that are hard to bill on a fee-for-service basis. One example is things like developing systems for email communication with patients, which have historically not been specifically reimbursed in common fee-for-service systems. They may also be particularly motivated to find cost-reducing things and may not be as interested in innovations that would tend to increase their resource use. Organizations will most naturally have interests in innovations and tools that affect their areas of activity. Hospitals will, maybe obviously, be interested in things associated with hospital care, but less interested in finding things that affect physicians. A PHO, though, with integrated physicians, may become interested in tools that would help with that integration. Larger and smaller organizations can also have different capacities to adopt and use new tools. Larger organizations may have substantial resources in-house to manage computer systems and related things to put new ideas in place. Smaller organizations may not. And some comments on data. EMRs or EHRs can be really useful sources of data, and the scale of organizations can affect the value. An issue with EMRs is that they may not capture care across multiple organizations, though. Hospitals, for example, might have their own data systems that keep track of patient care in the hospital, and these can be really useful, but it's good to keep in mind that these may well track hospital care only and may or may not track other care received outside the hospital. As organizations get bigger and more integrated, though, IDNs and so on, they may start to develop computer systems, EHRs and EMRs that capture more and more data in the same system, which would tend to increase the value of the data for understanding healthcare, for tracking trends and things like that. Hospital payment or provider payment data that you might get from intermediaries can also be useful, and sometimes, in fact, might even be better than just using data from a single provider organization, even a big one, because it can capture bills from multiple providers. And bills to intermediaries can have lots of detail. Regardless of the specific payment arrangements, hospitals may send pretty detailed bills with patient diagnoses, procedures, and related information in to the intermediaries, even, for example, when they're getting paid by DRGs. So there's a lot to keep in mind. Different kinds of organizations have different capabilities and different interests with respect to new innovations and tools, and the data coming from different sources can be really useful and interesting and varied. Worth keeping your eye on all of those different aspects.